Welcome to Season 3 of the Mediumship Matters podcast. My name is Hannah Macintyre, and I'm an evidential medium. But I'm nothing special, and I mean that. I love that spirit connection and communication is available to all of us. This podcast is to help clear the misinformation, inspire and educate you on your journey with spirit, and share the reality of being a demonstrating medium in the real world. Join me as we learn how to use the miraculous presence of spirit in our lives to heal, manifest and inspire, and make sense of the point of it all. Why are we here? With great guest interviews, up-to-the-minute channeled guidance and inspiration, and your questions answered, it's no wonder we've reached top 10 in the spiritual charts. And whether you've just jumped in for this episode right now or you've listened to them all in order, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah Macintyre. And today I'm very, very excited for my first interview of Season 3 with the beautiful Amy Fleckney. Hi, Amy.
Hello.
Thank you very much for joining us today. I'd like to do the really awkward thing that people make you do at the beginning of interviews where I say, please introduce yourself to the listeners.
Okay, so I'm Amy Fleckney. I'm international psychic medium and unconscious mind therapist. So I live in Essex and I've got 3 kids, and my work with spirit is everything to me.
Excellent, lovely. So I always like to start at the beginning because I'm that kind of girl. So tell us, how did you get into this crazy life?
So it wasn't something that I always done for a living as such, and it just came to me at a time more, it got louder to me at a time when I needed it more. I had to turn to the spirit in challenges time in my life. I always knew that I had it. So when people say, how do you know when you had it? How did you know you had it? I knew I had it from about the age of 8 when my dad's auntie was really, really poorly, really unwell, and she wasn't physically able to communicate on earth anymore. However, at 8 years old, I was sitting in her house having full-blown conversations with her as if she was fully able to talk to me, when actually I was talking to her spirit that had already left her body.
Wow.
So that's how I knew I had it. So, because I never really call it a gift. I don't know if you do. You do, but I never call it a gift. So people say, oh, you've got the gift, you've got the gift. I never call it that. So I always say how I knew I had it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, there's that other question of how did you know you were spiritual? I've always been spiritual. It's who I am. You know, I was born like it. So there wasn't really a moment when I was like, oh, I'm now spiritual. But obviously there was then a moment where it became my work, my business, and how I provide for my children. So yeah, that come much later. So I've done beauty therapy for a long time, and people would always ask me questions and stuff because I was still very in tune psychically, and I was very in touch with my nan when she passed. And I was a single mum raising 2 kids, completely on my arse, flat broke. And I was given an opportunity by a friend who is a psychic. She was just overwhelmed with work. She kind of knew that I had it as such, just from our talks and our conversations and just being in touch with the psychic network as such. And she basically said, oh, please, could you do me some readings? I've got so many, I don't feel very well. And I was like, shit, what? You want me to actually do some readings?
Yeah.
She was like, they're just emails, they're just online. And I was like, oh God. And she was like, go on, just do it. So she threw me in. I'm fortunate enough that my auntie is a medium. So my auntie, I've grown up with her. I grew up with her going to spiritual church as well. I love spiritual church. It's a very, I don't know if you find this, Hannah, but it's quite an old school medium place to be. And just sitting and watching mediums perform was always very absorbing for me. You know, I was fascinated by it. And my drive home with my auntie was always like my favourite part. And this is when I was like 12 years old. You know, I used to just want to ask her so many questions all the time. I was like a sponge to her being a medium and what she was able to do. So I did have her around me saying, just do it, Amy, just do it. Like, you'll be fine. And so I did it. And I did these questions, these email questions. And yeah, the response was amazing. I did really well. I then was allowing spirit to come in more, and I could hear them and I could feel them, and I was able to see them in a way and describe the, you know, people and places and all these things. So yeah, it was quite yeah, it was almost shit, I can do it, I can actually do it. And then it just went from there. I joined a Facebook group, become a proofreader on there, and everything was online, so I was very hidden in a way, you know, nothing was in person. So I felt that as a bit of security, and that enabled me to develop. I joined a small circle locally, and it literally snowballed in a matter of like 2 years. I went from 1 follower to a combination of like 50,000 followers. So my following's got bigger, which I'm really, you know, proud of. And I read for people all over the world like yourself, Hannah, you know, and it's amazing. And I'm just so grateful. You probably feel the same. Like, I'm so grateful. And then I was able to provide for my kids and give us security and stability. And that was everything to me.
Amazing. So let's go right back to the beginning of all of that story. You're 8 years old. You're communicating with the spirit of your aunt. And now your other aunt is a medium. So were you able to express to your family what was going on, or did you have to keep it to yourself? How did that work for you?
No, so I remember sitting at breakfast with like my parents, and me saying to Dad, I had a conversation with Nancy yesterday, and he was like, well, no, she had motor neurons disease, so she'd lost the ability to communicate, to talk. And he was like, no, you couldn't have. And I was like, no, I have. I've just spoke to her. I've just literally spoke to her. I've just been around there. And they always had this thing where if you couldn't find Amy, she'd be talking to Nancy, because I was always in her house. And I said, no, I've just speaking to her. And he couldn't quite make it out. And then I said, I dreamt about a man last night, and he was wearing, I spoke about his shoes. He had these funny shoes on. And it worked out that it was my dad's uncle who'd passed away many years before.
Wow.
And he literally just went, I think you need to speak to your auntie, as in my auntie was a medium. So he was like, I think you need to speak to who's his sister. So I said, he said, yeah, I think you need to speak to your auntie about that.
Amazing. So, but isn't that incredible? Because obviously some mediums just get completely shut down. So even though your dad was, you know, I'm going to pass this hot potato over, he wasn't like, you're making it up. Absolutely not. What are you on about? So that's absolutely incredible. So then you're carrying on with your life, doing your beauty therapy, doing your readings. And when you started working for your friend, had you had any formal training at that point, or did you just chuck yourself in at the deep end and then get the sort of circles and the development stuff after?
Yeah, so it was literally, like I say, just a one-off. She was very overwhelmed. We'd become really good friends anyway. So she was kind of like, I think, inadvertently working with me before I knew, you know, she would use me as such to ask me questions for her and always come to me for advice and things like that, which a lot of people did anyway, because they'd be like, oh, Amy will know the answer to that. So I hadn't really had formal training as such. No, it was just more growing up with my auntie, always having her advice, her guidance with certain things. She taught me a lot of protection methods when I was really young. You know, I'd go to bed, I'd have very vivid dreams. I wasn't able to rest very well at night time, where spirit were obviously rushing through at that time. So she would teach me a lot of protective development stuff then. And I'm talking, you know, I was like probably 10 at that age.
Yeah.
And again, she would, like I say, she would take me to spiritual church, and I would sit and listen to platform mediums and just absorb the environment, really, I think. And you're learning all the time anyway when you think you're not learning. So
absolutely. And I always say to developing mediums, they should watch as many mediums work as they possibly can, because it teaches you so much just from watching how they do it, what resonates with you, what doesn't, what goes well, what doesn't, what you would do differently, what you would do the same. It's such a rich tapestry, and I think it is such an individual thing, mediumship, and it should be. So you are a platform medium now. You love to do platform. Yeah. So we were just talking about this, and I said, we've got to wait for the podcast to be hitting record. So you're like me. You love audience readings, don't you? Talk to me about that.
So again, I was given an opportunity. it's not a coincidence, as we all know. It's always like, oh, I can't believe that happened, but you know, I can. So I had some therapy actually, and my therapist, he was doing a hypnosis show, like a live hypnosis show, and he was like, you know, we were talking a lot about like, what's the dream, Amy? What's the dream? And I was like, I always see myself, you know, big audiences, lots of energy, lots of spirit to work with, all in one go, because that's where I love it. You know, one-to-ones are beautiful. They really are. Like, there's nothing quite like giving someone that message from someone, that pain of losing someone. You know, there's no words for that, but giving that hope, giving that teeny bit of like closure, comfort, whatever it may be, that there's no other job like that. There's nothing in this world that could come close to that, I don't feel. And I'm privileged, you know, I see it as a privilege that I'm able to do that, and I never ever take that for granted. So to be able to, when I was given this opportunity, he was doing a hypnosis show, he was like, well, why don't you come and do an hour? And I was like, again, all right then, I'll do it. It was a bit like when I was offered the readings, like the email readings, it was like, shit, okay, yeah, I'll do it, you know. But obviously I'm being pushed, you know, spirit are pushing me to do this, and I did it, and it was just, oh God, it was just so good. And I did really well, which, like you I shock myself all the time. Do you feel like that?
Sometimes when it goes well.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, spirit can be unpredictable, you know, and audiences can be unpredictable.
For sure.
You know, energy is everything.
Absolutely.
And if you've got an energy restricting audience, you can walk on that stage and think, fuck, where's this going to go?
Yeah. Trying to do CPR to the energy in the room before you can even communicate with a spirit is always an interesting space to be in.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. So, and you're like me, you're quite vibey. You like it to be quite fun and uplifting. And I think that can be hard for people when, and this is no disrespect to churches, but when you've been in very serious church settings and then you come to see me do mediumship and I'm like, oh, let's get the party started. I think it can be a lot for people. So they have to get to know us as well, don't they, as who we are. Yeah,
definitely. Okay. And you know, before every show, I'm a bit like, if you don't want to keep it real, then you're probably watching the wrong medium. Do you know what I mean? Because, and then you find that the people from spirit, they even more so want you to be like them, because I get people from spirit that could be swearing 1 minute, and then I get such, like, you get such a mixture of people, but I'm just still me. I'm just delivering. I'm just that middleman, you know. Yeah. I'm just that middleman to give that message, and I have to deliver in a way that's just me.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of
I just want people to feel happy. There's that fine line between happy and sad. I was just saying that fine line between happy and sad. Yeah,
sorry, you broke up there. Yeah, absolutely. It's such a funny thing, isn't it? And I agree with you with the difference between one-on-ones and audience, because for me, audience is more a celebration, and it's heartfelt, and it's moving, but it's also a chance for the spirit world to come in and show off and be themselves. I've had like flirty dads coming in who made me bat my eyelashes at them, and I think I don't know if you find this, but I find that the spirits that come in they're more my kind of people. So that they're not going to come in if they're very serious and very studious so much. I mean, it's not impossible, but they're going to be the people that want to play and have fun.
And I always say that to people, you know, when people come for a one-to-one and the person that they so desperately want to come through, if that person doesn't come through, I mean, someone will, and the message will be relevant.
Absolutely.
However, if that one person doesn't, then it's no reflection on how much they're loved, and it's no reflection on me as a medium. It's just, you don't speak to every single person on earth. You don't become friends with everyone on earth. So I always find that I get people come through that have maybe fucked up quite a bit on earth, that know that I'm not a judgmental person, and that there's nothing that could surprise me to tell me what they've done, you know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, people do have that mass disappointment, don't they? If they go and have a reading, you don't get the person through. And then some people can also reflect that upon your ability.
Yes.
But because the understanding there is very blurred with me, it's not as simple as that. And mediumship, ultimately, people can't see the science behind it. No. So we've got to try and prove with evidence all the time.
Yeah.
that we've got that person. I love the light bulb moment though. I love it when you get that one bit where they're like, boom, there she is, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Boom, that's
absolutely. And
it's
the funny thing with
bulb.
that though is that there is no, I mean, I did a dem 3 weeks ago now, where I pointed at somebody in the audience. I told them it was their granddad. I said how they died. I gave their name, like I was banging, and they still went,
yeah,
you know, exactly. And you're like, bloody hell, like I'm impressing myself here. Like, what do you want from me? And that's the funny thing. You can give the light bulb moment to some people. You know, I remember a lady I did a dem for earlier this year, and it was he fell off a deck chair. That's what he showed me, and it brought such a memory for her. And for her, that simple, I can see him falling off a deck chair, made her go. And then for other people, you're giving the name, the relationship, how they died, and how long they've been in the spirit world, and they're like, meh.
Yeah, and I can even also sometimes like. I can get like spirit can take me to where they used to live, and I can then talk about their old houses, and then I could practically give a postcode, and they're still like, ma, okay, and I'm just
because they're waiting for that one thing that they've told spirit world they've got to say, like orange bananas, and until they get that, they're just going to sit there going. So it's always a mixed bag. It's always an interesting thing, and I think. That you know, TV and the way that media has portrayed mediumship, either like we're lunatics or with a cutting reel of highlights that's every moment is the best moment, and the sitters are so primed and so reactive and so, oh my god, that's amazing, that it makes it really hard in the middle. So I love to hear you talking about that. Now tell us about your book that's coming out. Very exciting.
Yeah, no, this is exciting actually. I feel buzzing about it now. It's been a bit of a journey. It's really hard writing a bloody book.
Yeah, it is.
Like you speak to so many people and they're like, oh yeah, I'll write a book. And then now I'm like, not sure you will. It's really hard. I was really lucky. I was invited to 2 collaborations. So I've appeared in 2 books already. I was chapter 4 in both, which shares like a snippet of my story, my journey in different ways, actually. But the big book, so it's all me. It's just, you know, Amy Fleckney, debut book. That's coming out in February.
Amazing. February, sorry.
February.
And what is it? Is it your story? How have you...
So it talks right back from when I was 8 years old. It talks a lot about I left an abusive relationship with my 2 really young children. So I share a lot about that. I share a lot about my nan passing, which was a massive moment in my life, which actually shut me off from spirit because I was frightened. First time ever, my nan's gone, shit. Why did she leave us? You know, all of those questions. But actually, she's played such a role in my mediumship. She would be kicking my arse if I was ever doing anything else, you know. So I talk a lot about that, and I talk a lot about, you know, raising the kids, struggling and creating a business. Because my life wasn't always how it is now. And, you know, obviously I know you look on social media and you see all the glam of it, but, you know, behind closed doors, there is quite a story to how I got to here. And there's also a little bit of controversy with my new relationship. So I talk a lot about that as well. And there's a little bit of a twist in that. So that's really, really interesting as well.
So sharing your story. And I love this because I think so many people think that once you've got spirit in your life, there's no difficulties, there's no problems. And there's me flailing around, like trying to stay afloat and not drown and going, what? Because we're here to learn, aren't we? We're here to endure and experience and grow from it. So I love that you're sharing that and telling everybody. So when in February, do you know the release date?
I'm not 100% sure as yet. So it will be early February. It's definitely coming out. I mean, like I say, I wrote the book last year. Like the book's been wrote for like a year, but just getting it out into the world, the timing didn't feel right. I had to add a bit, change a few bits. You know, it's really tough. So to get it right. And even when you let it go, it's kind of like, have I wrote enough? Is it right? But I'm trusting. I'm really proud of it. Like I really am. I'm proud of myself. And I'm really excited for people. I just want people to know that when life is really shit and you don't think you're going to become something, you absolutely will, absolutely can, you know. And although, like you say, we are, you know, we're constantly working for spirit is pressure. There's pressure there,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
We want to deliver every single time, whether we have 10 clients, 5 clients, 1 client. We want to deliver, you know, every single time. And that pressure never leaves.
It doesn't, does it? It doesn't go away. It doesn't get better. You just learn to live with it.
People say to me, "I know you've been doing it like whatever, years or whatever. Do you get nervous before every reading?" 100% I get nervous before every reading.
But equally, you don't want that to go because it shows that you care. You want to do a good job. So yeah, I hear you. It's tough. So I will keep me posted when it comes out, and I'll share it on and I'll do a mention in the podcast, because this is coming out Jan, but obviously just to give people a reminder. Do you know where it's going to be available?
It will be available on Amazon. So, you know, buy it from Amazon. You can buy it direct from me. So yeah, I'm excited. I want everyone to read it, and I want everyone to live a life that they love, you know.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So I know you work, obviously, evidential mediumship. You also do psychic readings and that kind of thing. What do you want someone to know when they're coming, when they're booking a reading for you? What would you like to say to someone that's booked up? What do they need to do to prepare, if anything?
So if people want to book, everything's done through my website. You know, I've got my own spiritual centre now that I've opened in Takeley, Essex. So this is where I work from, which is amazing. Amy Fleckney World. And yeah, it's all about Amy Fleckney, isn't it?
Good, why not? Self-love, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And people can come to me. The only thing I always say is just, you know, start putting your thoughts out. You know, always start putting your thoughts out to the person that you want to connect with. I do, you know, like you say, I do psychic stuff. So people just want to come and get some life guidance, past, present, future, that sort of stuff, and not connect to spirit, because some people don't want spirit to come. Some people don't like it.
Yeah.
So if they want to just do some life guidance stuff, that can really help with just moving forward. With some people, you know, when you get to that feeling of like, oh, I don't know what to do with my life, or I'm stuck, you know, or whatever, they can just come and have some psychic guidance. That's always so helpful. So I just want people to come, be themselves, be real, and let's get this, you know, show on the road.
Amazing. Amazing. Love it. And you also have a live show coming up in January.
Yeah, that's right.
Where's that?
So that's in Harlow, Essex. So in Old Harlow, there's a beautiful little quaint theatre in Old Harlow. It's actually a bit spooky because when it rains and winds like loud, you can hear it whistling.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it's so weird. Like people, I've done it last time, and Storm Dennis was like taking over, and then all they could hear was like the howling. Everyone went, oh, and it was just
amazing.
So I'm there, doing the 28th of January, which is an evening, 7 p.m, and I'm doing the 29th of January, which is a 2 p.m. So I'm doing the 2 days.
Matinee.
Yeah,
exciting. Lovely. Oh, I love it. Well, they're really lucky to have you. That's going to be exciting. So what would you say is the most important thing for any developing medium to know?
Trust is a massive thing, you know. Trust what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and what you're feeling. And even if it doesn't fit the person that's sitting in front of you, trust that the message will be relevant, because that person in front of you may well just have a connection to someone that needs to hear that message. Don't panic is probably another one. Like when you've got someone whose energy can be quite shut off, because people want to test us. Yeah, people do want to test us. You know, we're constantly under scrutiny if we're real at the end of the day. Yeah, which I quite like that, really, because I quite like blowing people's socks off with things. And the non-believers are normally the ones that I quite like. Are you like that?
It depends on their energy. If they've got a wall up that's too high for any man to climb, then no. But if they really want to believe, but they just need a bit of proof, like the kid in Polar Express, then I'm all over that. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. So I would definitely just say trust. And another one is you're definitely not going mad. Trust and learn. Never stop learning.
Absolutely.
Even the most famous mediums that we see on the telly, they're still learning all the time. They probably learn from us, because we all do things differently. And always just be yourself. You can learn from other mediums, but just deliver it in a way that and that will come naturally.
Yes.
Right.
I think that's really important. It's funny when you see mediums working and you can tell who their teacher is, because they just do
100%.
it as a version of that teacher, and you think then that it's fine what they're doing, but their mediumship will so improve when they work out who they are and how they want to work.
Yeah, exactly that. And do you know what as well, like, I'm not shy to, I would join courses, I would still continue to go to Circle, I would still join development courses. I'm not shy, I'm not the best at everything, and I'm never going to stop learning. Even when I'm an 80-year-old woman still delivering mediumship, I'll still be trotting along to Circle, because there's still opportunity to learn all the time.
Absolutely. Never stop. And that's what I love about it. You're never done. It's incredible, isn't it? So do you have like a daily spiritual practice, anything you do to keep yourself in alignment, or are you like me and really lazy?
I wing the fuck out of it, to be quite honest. I've got 3 young kids. I'm running a household. I've got a dog. I am juggling a shit show.
Yeah.
The one thing that I 100% do every day is I practice gratitude. But I'm not going to lie and sit here and tell you that I meditate and practice gratitude in that way. I do it in my way. I'm doing the school run, and in my mind, I will be grateful for what's made me smile that day before. I'm always, I practice gratitude, and I always visualize. So every morning, every night, I do my visualizations, but that will always be me standing in the shower, because that's the only time I get peace to do my visualizations. And obviously I practice with spirit safely, is the word I want to use. I don't do a whole opening up, closing down ceremony. I don't. I would be, do you?
No, not at all. But I don't believe there's anything to fear in the spirit world. People are what you need to fear. So I don't need to shut myself off from spirit, because they're intelligent enough to know when it's time to communicate and when I want to be left alone and watch something crap on the TV.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my discipline as well. I'm disciplined with spirit. I say, from a young age, I've said, back off here. Like, I'm busy. I am. Yeah, I'm strict with that, and I expect them to be strict with me, with my ability. So it's like a personal contract that I kind of have with spirit as such. We've all got our own personal contracts. We've all got our own ways of let's just have a deal here. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You do you, I'll do me. Let's work together.
Absolutely. Completely agree. It's I think sometimes the idea of meditation, and just to be clear, me and you, nearly every person that I've interviewed on the podcast in the last 2 years has been the same. They don't have a daily practice, but we're all taught when we're students that that's what we should be doing, or we all have the idea that we should be. And I think it's really interesting that when you speak to all these mediums, they're all like, absolutely, just don't have time for that. And I think sometimes when I first started, it would hold me back, because I would think, I haven't meditated for a week. They're not going to come and work with me, and I'd feel guilty about it. And it was the guilt that was cutting me off from spirit, not the lack of meditation. Yeah. No,
I hear you.
Fascinating. Excellent. Now, do you ever work with oracle cards or anything like that?
Yeah, I can do. I don't tend to do it in a reading. If I do, it's because I'm guided to. Yeah. So in a reading, you would just get me as such. But I've had oracle cards since I was like 9 years old. I've had them. I've had them in my life. Use them myself. Use them with the kids. My own kids.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah, I mean, my kids are not overly into it all. They just tell their friends. Yeah, they're very
Same as
much
mine.
like, I'll talk to dead people. That's that.
So do you have a particular set that you would recommend to the listeners, or anything you particularly use?
I love an angel card, if anything, because I think they're soft, they're light, and I always feel that as a beginner as well, angel cards are a good beginner card, I feel. I don't read tarot at all, and there's no reason for that. I just don't connect with them personally, whereas I do know people that read tarot and they're incredible tarot readers. Put a tarot card in front of me, I have no idea what the interpretation is. I would be listening to spirit telling me. So actually, the tarot card would be pointless.
Yeah, exactly. I'm too lazy to learn all the meanings, so that's why I don't.
I don't get it. I've never felt connected to tarot, but as I say, I do know some tarot readers and they're amazing.
Yeah,
but
I love having one. Just not, it's not my bag. There's enough going on. Maybe one day. Oh, yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, a little bit about you and your beliefs. It's been really lovely to get to know you. Best of luck with your book launch. Very exciting. Break a leg in January. And thank you very much. Now, just to finish, can you tell us what your website address is if anyone wants to check you out?
Okay, thank you so much for having me. It's just been really refreshing. Thank you. So my website is www.amyfleckneymediumship.co.uk.
Excellent. I'll put it in the show notes as well. And thank you very much for talking to us today.
Thank you so much.